course, and I
What are the earliest things you can remember about right here where you live?
well, I think the earliest thing I remember here was my parents, of course, and my sisters and brothers playing with them. And there's one thing that runs into my mind quite often. Uh, I wasn't 4, I don't think. But we used to have one of these crooked rail fences, zigzag rail fences.
Oh, yeah.
And all of us went down. There was an old road, kind of a road there, and went out for a walk, just the kids, Well, when we got down in there quite a ways, why, it was all girls but me, that is, that day. The girls got to quarreling about something. Well, my cousin, she was, and one sister picked me up and put me on there. My cousin put me astride of her shoulders here, and we went around this old rail fence and then climbed over, and I had to climb over on a big rock. And, well, there, I can't remember what happened, but I expect I would sleep. But I wasn't 4 then, I know. Because I didn't know what the quarrel was about, but I suppose just some kid jangling.
But you could tell the way they talked. They were,
yes,
they
they was quarreling, and these two, one of my sisters and my cousin, they took me and separated from this, so I suppose those two were quarreling with all the rest of them. That was one of the earliest memories I think I have.
Was that right down here by?
Yes, just about, almost in front of Grant's.
Oh, I see. Was that part of your property?
It was, yes. My father took 440s up and down the creek here.
Oh, I see.
And Grant is the second 40.
Uh-huh.
And,
well, that...
But I can remember another thing. Have you noticed, where the 101 Ranch?
Yes.
Well, just this side of there's some blue gum trees.
Yes, I've often wondered about those.
Well, I remember when that man, John Oster, was planting them. My father and mother had been to Fresno or Madera. Of course, now, that trip I don't remember a thing about it. But we come along there, a 4-horse team, evidently was loaded with groceries because that's where we got our groceries. Hook up 4 horses and go to Madera or Fresno. And this man, John Olster, lived the first place this side of the 101 Ranch on the same side of the road. And he was talking about these trees and explaining to my father what kind of trees they were. And he had just taken up this land there, 160 acres, and named it the Bedrock Farm.
Bedrock?
Yeah. That was funny. I knew what bedrock was, of course, and I knew what a farm was. But I didn't know just exactly how we put the two together. That was funny. I sat to see that wagon, and I can remember that. Well, when we started, I don't remember anything more about that trip.
I wonder why he planted that kind of tree there.
Well, it was something new to this country.
That's right. From Australia.
Yeah, yes. It was something new here.
Because it's the only place around these hills that there are any eucalyptus
That's
trees.
the only ones.
Yeah.
He was a photographer, and I guess he worked out a little, but he'd taken pictures over here for us. We lived just across the creek there in a big log house.
Oh.
And I wouldn't give those pictures away. Well, I thought I was getting old and I wouldn't have any use for them, and I knew of no one that would. And Earl Marr was here talking about old pictures, so I would get all my old pictures and give them to him.
Well, he does have a picture of your home then, your log house.
Yes.
Oh,
Cletty, Bud Cletty, he wanted a picture of my father. Well, I haven't any, only in that group
Oh, yeah.
photograph. And I told him about Earl having it. I don't know, he said he was going to see Earl about it.
Yes. Well, have you heard we're trying to set up a museum?
Huh?
We're trying to set up a museum here at the school about the early days here, not just Indian things, but also about the early days when your father came. And do you have any idea when he came?
What?
About when your father came.
Team?
When did he come to North Fork?
Oh, 75.
In 75.
75. He first settled where, where the mayors live.
Oh, yes.
He settled there for just a few months. And he met a man who had squatted here. It wasn't surveyed land at that time. And he told him about the creek here and how they could get an irrigation ditch. So, of course, my father wanted to raise something over there, and then but one spring. So he said he didn't like it here. He wanted to get further back. And so my father moved over here, and he was the man that homesteaded the Hogue Ranch
Oh,
and put out an apple orchard.
is
Some
that
of the- some of
Mr.
those-
Hogue?
No, that
No.
was Jesse Ross.
Ah,
He
now that was,
he homesteaded that, and they used to raise beans and potatoes
yeah,
and raised a lot of corn. He was quite
up there on the Hogue
on
Ranch.
the Hogue Ranch.
And what did he have? Is there a stream there that he used
Yes,
for
yes,
irrigation?
he gets water from Fish Creek and brings it over the hill, brings it
Ah.
kind of over a mountain like, and puts it in a gulch, and then it runs down into another creek. It's a little bigger creek,
Yeah.
but it goes dry in the summer. You can't depend on it for
Uh-huh.
irrigation. So that's how he got his water. He built that ditch, and then he built a road from where the church is up there, the mission.
Yeah.
He built a road from there to the Hogue Ranch. Of course, it wasn't a road. but
Across?
yeah, he could get over it with
Yeah.
a light team and wagon, and it's almost where the old road is now. Only went up through
Yeah.
by Cascadel. It's
Uh-huh.
a pretty fair road, so it's Forest Service taking it over.
They
you
take
know.
care of it now,
And
yeah.
how I never could see, I can't even yet realize what my folks wanted, what they expected
When they
to
came
move
here.
here,
Where did they come from?
Turlock.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
And they had, my father had 4 children, my mother had 4. And they married, and there was 6 of us born to that union.
Oh, my goodness sakes. Your children?
Yeah.
Yeah, our
Of course, we weren't
children.
all here at one time. The
No.
older ones began to marry off and get out for themselves.
I see.
And
So you had 5 real brothers and sisters then?
yes,
Uh-huh.
yes, one brother and 4 sisters.
I see. Are you the older or younger?
No, I'm next to the youngest.
Next to the youngest.
Next to the youngest. I have one sister with that same union that was born in Turlock. She was 6 weeks old when they left Turlock to come here.
Did they come here with a wagon and all their
Yes,
possessions?
and cattle and extra horses.
Yeah.
They drove 4, of course, and then had 6 or 8 extra horses and 30 or 40 head of cattle.
Yeah.
Of course, there are 2 boys, my father's boy, my mother's boy was 8, 9, and they were big enough to ride a horse and help with the cattle,
Yeah.
keep things going.
Well, then they settled on this place
Yeah,
here,
they
and did
set-
your father raise things here?
Oh,
Did
yes,
he
he
irrigate from the...
He irrigated. He had to build a ditch, of course, out of Whiskey Creek, about a little over a mile long. And he planted an orchard right away, got an orchard growing,
Mhm.
and then got hogs afterwards because he had his cattle and raised vegetables, garden. Mother put down stuff, That's how we lived.
Yeah.
They didn't buy things in those days except flour and sugar and coffee. And that come in big white barrels. I guess they'd hold 50 gallons of liquid.
Uh-huh.
And those old white barrels, tear the top off and there'd be sugar and nothing be coffee and nothing be flour.
Ah. And so when you went to Fresno or Madera,
Yeah.
you got barrels of
Oh,
supply.
yeah, we got the all 4 horses could lug in.
Yes. Did your father ever work in the lumber?
No, no. He stayed right there, and he done all of his book carrying, you know what I mean.
Yes.
Afoot. He never rode a horse out over, but he went afoot and carried a pick
Is that right?
and was prospecting, and
Yes.
he found it.
Uh-huh.
You seen that picture in the bee that Cletty took?
Let's see. When was that? How long ago?
About 2 months ago.
I should have seen that. Oh, when they were... Oh, yes. When the young man, Mr. Lorton, is looking for gold, is it?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, he finally found that mine and took out $1,400.
In gold?
in gold.
Oh.
Well, that was about as much as 14 million nowadays, you know.
Yes.
And he had a raster right there below Grant's on the creek. Took out water ditch and run
Yeah.
water out on top, just about where Grant's house is, old house.
That's where the arrestor was?
Yeah, and then turned it down the sluice spout down the flume,
Oh, I
turned the
see.
water wheel.
Yes.
So that's how I guess he stayed here. I don't see how else. There wasn't any mills here then. There wasn't
That was
anything at
before
all.
the Peck and Paw
Oh,
Mountain
yeah, yeah. That was before the
lumbering.
lumbering and lumbering started.
Oh. Well, so he grew things, and you lived with that.
Yes.
And,
Of course, by that time, you know, the cattle began to increase. We
Yeah.
had all the range there was. It was all his range, you know.
Yes.
It was better way to feed in those days. There's now
Oh,
more of it. There
course.
wasn't so much brush.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't hardly any brush in those days.
Uh-huh.
And of course the cattle increased and hogs increased. And then after the mills come by, he could sell the beef now and then to the sawmills, you know. That's how I'd like to sit down to one of those old meals again. I tell you, he lived a whole lot better than I live now.
I imagine they did, with real fresh vegetables from the garden.
Yes, and everything was put up in the fall. We had a big cellar, a rock bottom, and that would just be full of fruit and canned fruit and pickled stuff, and sauerkraut and things of that kind.
Mm-hmm. Well, I got in just on the end of those days in Minnesota when I grew up. I grew up on a farm, Minnesota, and my mother made sauerkraut and sausage and canned things. And so I know how that was. Well, do you remember when you first went to school?
Yes, I can remember my first experience in school. I was only 5. They took them at 5 in those times. And it was right up here, just above Sticklings, one far away from where the road is now. The road used to go by it. It was just a cabin, a homestead cabin. They didn't have any schoolhouses. They taught school wherever they could find an old vacant house. And for several years, they held the school right at our old log house over here, out in the yard. They had summer school there, not winter school.
That's what Gene Tully told me, that he went to school there.
Yeah, yeah. I'd like to see Gene awfully well. If you see him,
I certainly will. I wonder if we can't figure out some way for you two to get together.
Earl says he sees him every time he goes to meet Earl. I don't know what I don't know whether he ever even sees him or not.
Well, I'll try to see Gene maybe this next week and see if I can get you two together. So it was in the summer you had school and under a tree.
Yes, a big willow tree grew there. Oh, it was a tree that's the biggest willow I ever remember seeing anywhere.
Oh.
It must have been at least 3 feet.
Is
the
that
stump,
right?
its ground. And then it spread out. It's something like a weeping willow, which was one of our native willows here.
Yeah.
And it's made a nice shade. And I can remember the teachers' names. And
you can?
I asked my older sister last time she was up. Now I says, I want to describe to you those 2 teachers and see if I'm anywhere near right, because she was 10 years older than I, and she remembered. And she said, yes, that's the way they look.
Is that?
It was Miss Farrington, and Gene Tully knew her quite well. She come from his home over on the coast.
Yeah.
And there was Miss Payson from around Fresno somewhere. And I can remember those 2 teachers, even the builder, even the height. Miss Payson was quite tall, and Miss Farrington was short. And they kind of, you know, her face went along, just kind of together like that. Miss Payson had a longer face. And I didn't go to school then. That was wrong. I was just a kid, and the worst part of it, they wouldn't let me come to school to play even.
But your sisters went. Your sisters went to school.
Oh yeah, my sisters went. That was the first school I went to. That old homestead cabin up there, and Lady Benema Gilmore, Mrs. Gilmore, was the teacher, and she had a boy who was a little younger than I, and she told us not to go down too far towards the brush, we might get snake bit. But like kids do when they do that now, I think they're terrible. But we done it, and we both got whipped.
Well, that was better than getting snake bit.
Yeah, I can remember that was the first whipping I ever had. School, I broke my whole shit whip us, you know.
Uh-huh.
But I was heartbroken anyway.
Mm. Did you learn to read that first year? Or?
Just learned some letters.
You learned your letters
Yeah,
first.
knew the letters was
Yeah.
about all.
Uh-huh.
And then I guess I didn't know all of them, but I knew a good many of the letters. Of course, her boy was too young even to do that. She just showed him pictures and things like that.
Uh-huh.
But I didn't want to get to that blackboard with a chalk.
Oh, that.
I was too little. They wouldn't let me.
Oh, well, did you have, how many children, let's say? Have you any idea, you remember how many children were in the first school? About how many?
That school there was about 10. There was about 10 on the average. And I'll tell you another old timer that went to school there was old Joe Kinsman. Of course, I call him old Joe, but
No.
it wasn't his father. But you know old Joe Kinsman, Annie's father.
Oh, yes.
Annie's father went to school
He went
there.
to school with you there.
Yeah.
Uh-huh, yes.
Then after that, I think they built a schoolhouse over there where Blaine Thornburg's house is.
Is that across from the store?
Yeah, right, just about where his house. It was the school there. I went to school there for. That's really the first school I went to.
The first real
to
school.
go study, you know. And we walked from here across, and we had to go way up around by the mission.
Oh?
And finally, my father cut a trail straight across and from all the coming out over there at Al Cunningham's.
Yeah.
And then it went just about following to where the road is now, from Cunningham's on out.
Ah.
Just about following the road.
Is that right? Well, now, where was the road that you got to this place on?
But we had to go way up around by the mission.
You did go all of
And
that
down
way?
to the mission and down where those Indians lived up there, Martin Lewis.
Yeah.
And down right back to Sticklig's house, right there over the road, right down the ridge.
I see. Of course, there wasn't any mission there then, was there?
Oh, no.
No.
There was a saloon.
A saloon where the mission is?
That saloon must have been there about the time that my folks moved here. Jane Vischer's father
Oh, yeah.
run that saloon, Fred Vischer, and he named many of these old Indians.
You gave them their
The
names?
Jacksons and I guess they kind of remind him of ex-presidents and generals and one thing or another. And he was he was Irish, and he was a very witty fellow. And and they still are their descendants here.
Oh, for goodness
They're
sake.
still here.
Ah, you say the Jacksons and about the
Jeffersons.
Jefferson?
The old Indian Jefferson, I suppose, remind him of Thomas Jefferson. He didn't name any of them Washington. And I guess there's none of them homely enough to name them Lincoln, so.
I wondered about the bishops, if he named the bishops.
The bishop.
Do you suppose he might have named those?
No.
They had.
The bishop family, that is the old bishop, he came from Feingold. He was a Picayune Indian.
Oh, he was a Picayune.
He was a Picayune.
I
And,
see. So there was a saloon right on that
yes, sir.
spot.
I took Bud Fetty up there. He was wanting to find bottles, and I told him about this whole saloon and where there wasn't anybody to sell it to then on the Indians. Oh, there was a few old-timers, miners, but they didn't buy much whiskey. I guess they didn't have anything bad with it. But I showed him where the Indians used to drink down in a gulch below the saloon. And he said he was coming back and hunt for old bottles. Well, he might find something that's very old out
Why,
there.
yes.
Well, you'll have to dig. You'll just all covered up.
But that's about the time you were going to school in the
Yes. Oh, yes.
about in the 80s. That would be, would it?
That'd be well, yeah, that'd be the 80s. It was 80. Let's see, 83. I was born in 83. And I was 5. That'd be 88 that I went to my first school.
Yeah.
When I was 5 years old. And that was the first North Fork we had. That was the first post office, was in 88. that's when the Brown and Bartram Lumber Company was organized, and they had a mill up on the mountain and had a planing mill at North Fork. The entrance to the planing mill was just about where the road turns into the Forest Service now.
Is that right?
Of course, as it run down towards the creek, it got higher, and they throwed all their waste overboard now.
Yeah.
Sawdust and blocks that they didn't use. And John Bartram was the first postmaster. He started to put up a store, a company store, Brown and Bartram, and he got the post office. Got a post office in. That was the first post office we had in North Fork.
And
otherwise, we got our mail at Fresno Flats. You know where Fresno Flats is?
You mean it's Oakhurst now? You had to go way over there to get mail.
Yeah. That mail maybe once a month was just too far. You know.
Would one person go over and get it for lots of people?
Yeah, get it for everybody around the country, you know.
Is that right?
They didn't see them, why bring it on home in a few days they'd come and get it.
Well, that's very different from today, isn't it?
Oh, isn't it though?
I should say they were talking about Winston Churchill today. Maybe you heard it a little on the television. About his life, 90 years, spanned such a great period of history, a long period of history. And like you, things have changed so very much in history.
I don't like these changes, but it's got to be.
Oh, they come so fast now.
I even hate to see a road change. And drive over a new road, of course, it's a lot better. Oiled and all the hills, gullies are cut out. But I hate to see all these old roads destroyed. I like to see them still. I think the Forest Service should preserve those roads and
I should say, but
open.
We wonder about this road going over the mountain here. I'd just as soon they didn't put one in.
I don't want that. That's going to ruin the mountains. It's going to just ruin the mountains.
We have too many people.
Yes.
Do you remember any of the people who were here when you first started to school? I mean, where other people lived around here?
When my mother first moved here, there was only 3 white women this side of Madera.
Is that right?
Can you believe that? There was a lady by the name of Marshall lived over where Cletty lives now.
Yeah.
And Mrs. O'Neill, the mother of John O'Neill and Myrtle Ellis. And they call themselves neighbors.
Yeah.
Probably see each other once or twice a year.
Only your mother was the 4th white woman to come. The 3rd white woman to come.
She was the first. She was the first, but then later on, this woman moved at the Bethel place, what we call the Bethel place then, by the name of Marshall. And the O'Neills moved here after that.
Oh.
My mother was the only white woman who was there.
Is that right?
And Indians lived here, all up on this side,
Oh,
on
this place?
Yeah, and back in there and down here, right above Grant's under that big rock.
Yes.
But the Indians were superstitious, I guess. But when white people got too close to them, they'd move out. Do you blame them?
No, I really don't. Considering what white people have done to their country.
Yeah. But they don't stay long. And they would move out, and you wouldn't know what they'd gone until somebody went out to the ranchery, and there would be nobody there.
Well, now, they did move anyway sometimes, didn't they, before the white people came?
Oh,
they moved from one rancheria to
often.
the other.
They figure that the evil spirits would get into their homes. And too many Indians die in one place, why they'll move.
I see.
Move out. And, of course, there may have been lots of deaths here. Maybe that's why they moved, but I can't remember Indians living here. Of course, they'd been here 8 years before I was born.
Yeah, that's right. So you wouldn't remember there weren't any actually living here when you were 5 or 6.
There was flat arrowheads. We'd go out and pick up nice, pretty arrowheads and take them home and throw them down. And I don't know what had become of them. No. I guess when we left here, I guess we must have left them thinking no value. We didn't care anything about it. We'd seen millions of them,
Yeah.
Now people get out and scratch in the dirt for all day looking for arrowheads.
I know. Well, then you've lived here almost all of your life.
Well, I was, after when I was 12, we moved to the valley.
Oh.
And
Your father had found the gold then.
Yes, my father had died. My father died in 93.
Oh, I see.
In 96, where we left here and moved to the valley. And then afterwards I came back and worked up in the woods. And then I went to Mariposa County and was over there 12 years.
Oh, I see.
And when I left, I said, well, when they build a railroad, when I can come back on the railroad, I'll come back to North Fork. I didn't come back on the railroad, but they were building this Western Railroad up at Central Cap when I came back.
Oh, yes. And did you work up there then?
Yes, I worked at Central Cap, and then I went back to my old trade, making shakes.
Yeah. You taught Mrs. Sturm how to make shakes,
Yeah,
didn't you?
Yeah.
In those days, were you making the shakes from yellow pine?
Sugar pine.
Sugar pine.
Yeah, mostly all sugar pine. Once in a great while we could find a yellow pine that would split, but they're mostly too tough.
I see.
We made all sugar pine shakes.
They...
All those shakes that Geddes got on his house, we made together.
You did?
Forest Service wanted me to make some shakes for them, and I was kind of casting around. I was getting kind of weak then, getting old, and I was kind of casting around for somebody to work with me. And Grant says, I'll go. I want some shakes. I want to make some shakes for my house.
Yeah.
That suited me fine. And he made his shake 15,000, I think, and I made 30,000, all out of the same tree.
Out of one tree?
Out of one tree. It was a great big tree, and the bugs had got into it, but it didn't die. And it still stood, and finally the bugs quit working on it. So they told me I could go any place, fall any tree I wanted, any place. Didn't make any difference. So I knew about this tree, and we went up and felled that tree.
Oh,
it was an immense big sugar pine, but it wouldn't have lasted much longer because one side of it was dry, clear up. The bugs had stopped it from any more growth. It would eventually die.
Mm. Do you remember at all about the bugs when you were first working in the woods? Were they bad then?
The bugs?
The bugs.
No. Those bugs came, long after my memory.
Is that right?
Of course, we had dead trees.
Yeah.
But you didn't see all that jumble up there in the woods, trees dying and falling. The bugs must have came here along, maybe in 1900, early 1900.
My, it's sad to see how many trees they use.
They destroyed.
Oh, yes. No, this nice little thing goes right on.
Yeah, I know.
Ah, so you were a real shake maker, and you made them for...
Yes, I guess I'm the only shake maker left in Madera, Fresno, and Mariposa County. For many years, Glenn DeMoss's father and I were the only shake makers left. He's from Mariposa County.
Oh, yes.
And he died here 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. Of course, there's people go up there and say they're making shakes, but...
They don't make them right.
No, not with putting them on the roof.
Well, they last a long time, don't they?
They last, yes. They last almost... you know the old Knob Hill house over here?
Yes.
When that house was built in about 88 or 89. And it was covered with sugar pine shakes. And there were some of those shakes